you see what's been going on today. Have you noticed nothing from the FBI report, the supplemental report, has been leaked? Nothing. And the reason nothing's been leaked is because the Democrats have nothing to leak from the FBI report. It is as we said it would be. When you have two adults testifying in front of the United States, the public, testifying in front of a Senate committee, testifying in front of the media, you have garnered more information from those two adults than you would garner from a background investigation from the FBI. But the Democrats were hoping that something would come up, anything would come up. And as I said back then, it's a remarkable thing to watch the Democrats. They hate law enforcement. They hate law enforcement. They hate the FBI. They hate ICE. They hate the Border Patrol. And yet they tried to use the FBI as a fig leaf. All through the Comey unethical and activities and the other criminal activities by senior officials at the FBI, we had the Democrats telling us that we were attacking the FBI. And over and over again, we said, no, we're attacking the leadership of the FBI. Comey now gone under investigation. The number 2 under criminal investigation. The number 3 under investigation. On and on. I've never seen anything like it. But the men and women of the FBI are patriots. The men and women of law enforcement are patriots. And the Democrats cannot stand them, even though they run these cities and oversee these police departments. No leak from the FBI supplemental report, which tells you there's simply nothing in it that the Democrats could say would help them, or they would have leaked it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed the last several months will go down in American history as a truly bleak time, as a truly dark moment. The Democrat Party, still, the Democrat Party, now make it clear, represents tyranny. No due process. No presumption of innocence. It's a job interview. This is what they say. So when you're accused of a heinous criminal act, it's a job interview. I could hear the East German Stasi saying this. It's not a trial, it's just a job interview. Every fascistic, communist, throwback regime that rejects the notion of Western civilization, that rejects the great thinkers, the great men of the past. Every regime sounds like the Democrats sounded during the Senate Judiciary Committee hearings and today. And the media in this country know better than the government media in the old East Germany, the government media in the old Soviet Union, taking up the ideological cause and trashing any human being who dares to challenge it. And what exactly did Brett Kavanaugh do? Drank? No, that wasn't the problem. That wasn't the problem at all. The problem was he embraced the Constitution. He embraced the Constitution, which the progressive statists cannot and will not. You look on this committee. You look at these senators on the committee. Every Democrat comes from a dark blue state. Every one of them. Not even a marginal state, blue versus red. Dark blue states. This is their mentality, ladies and gentlemen. They are the progeny of the hard left. They are the progeny of Hegel, of Marx, of Engels. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. This is who they are. And this is one of the reasons why I will continue to go behind this microphone and take them on. It's not enough to go through the day's news every single day, to pull it off websites or out of newspapers and just dance through it. No. This is a bigger battle. It's a battle between liberty and tyranny. It surely is. And let us hope Donald Trump has another appointment to the Supreme Court. And he should pick the most solid constitutional attorney and professor or judge he possibly can. And I am absolutely thrilled that so many of you now have had enough. And so many of our brothers and sisters see the light. The latest news we're hearing now is the 3 Republican stooges are still undecided, or they're not revealing where they stand. You've been hearing all day that Susan Collins and Flake were very pleased with the thoroughness of the FBI report. Now we're hearing that they are not sure and they're not going to announce. You see, these people are utterly and completely unprincipled. They are unmoored from any notion of loyalty to our founding principles. The Democrats are running around saying the FBI report is crap, yet they asked for it. And now we have the 3 stooges of the Republican Party really studying it. They ought to study the Constitution. They ought to study Judge Kavanaugh's decisions. They ought to study what it is that the Supreme Court's supposed to do. But no. They like positive write-ups in the New York Slimes or the Washington Compost. They love positive comments on MSLSD and the Constipated News Network. This is what they live for. This is what they love. And you folks in Maine and Alaska, Flake we know can't run in Arizona. He couldn't get elected anything. But you folks in Maine and Alaska, take note. We're heard all over Maine and Alaska. But this decision is bigger than 1 state or 2 states. This is a national decision involving our federal Supreme Court, which issues rulings that affect each and every one of us no matter where we live. And I would strongly encourage you to contact Susan Collins' office and Lisa Murkowski's office and to be on your best behavior, to be civil, but make it abundantly clear what you believe and what you think. Because I can assure you the left, the mob on the left, the army of miscreants and malcontents, they're very busy on their phones. I can assure you that. So you need to get busy. Polite. Civil. Otherwise, you'll push them in the wrong direction. This is how these people are. They're very thin-skinned. I can't believe what the president said. Can you believe what Leahy said? Can you believe what Booker said? Can you believe what Kamala Harris said? Can you believe what little Dick Durbin said? Can you believe what Feinstein said and did? Can you believe any of those people? They never criticize them. Well, you know, they're my colleagues. I can't believe what the president said. No, that's not presidential. Oh, right. And the clown show for the last 3 months by the Democrats in the Senate Judiciary Committee and you 3 Republican stooges who give it air. That's very senatorial. I'll be right back. According to the Associated Press, Montana Republican Senator Steve Daines says he's going to attend his daughter's wedding back home in Montana on Saturday, regardless of a possible weekend Senate vote on embattled Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh. This is the AP. Daines told the Associated Press in a statement that 2 things are going to happen this weekend. There's going to be a new Supreme Court justice, and Daines is going to walk his daughter down the aisle. Daines has supported Kavanaugh throughout a confirmation process. All right, whatever. The senator's spokeswoman, Katie Schuttler, says Daines read the FBI report on the allegations and saw no evidence of corroborating claims made by Christine Blasey Ford and 2 other women. She says Daines believes it's time the confirmation moves forward. Well, that's fine, but are you going to be there to vote on it if it's Saturday? You know, the Democrats control the media narrative. And I got to thinking, and I asked this question on Sunday on the program. Do the Democrats take their lead from the media, or do the media take their lead from the Democrats? I believe the media now lead the way and the Democrats follow. Let me underscore that point so the backbenchers can repeat it, that the media lead the way and the Democrats follow. I'll give you an example. There's really precious little reporting on the fact that despite all the demands for another FBI background investigation, that Dr. Ford's allegations could provide no corroboration whatsoever, no evidence whatsoever, no witnesses whatsoever. None. No corroboration whatsoever, no witnesses whatsoever, no evidence whatsoever. They went back and they interviewed people. And so they trashed the FBI report. Well, they didn't interview Dr. Ford. There's nothing to ask Dr. Ford. And if they did interview Dr. Ford, really, then you would need a criminal investigation, of which this is not, for her to explain her inconsistencies and so forth. And all these witnesses who she says she has or doesn't have would have to be interviewed in that context, but they aren't. So there's very little discussion about that. That is the fact that the FBI report found that there's no corroboration. Is that not a big deal? Chuck Grassley was pretty good today. He went up behind the microphone, and I want to go to cut 12, Mr. Producer, and here in part is what he said. Go ahead.
Kavanaugh should be confirmed on Saturday. Now, this started downhill very quickly on about July the 10th, when Schumer said that we're going to do everything we can to stop this nomination. And you can look back 87 days and you can see that everything but whether he's qualified to serve has been brought up. I've tried to commit, and I think I've carried out what I promised immediately, that we were going to have a fair and thorough process. We have had a fair and thorough process, and I think that's best demonstrated by the fact that the minute I read about who the person was in the Feinstein letter, Dr. Ford, I read about her name in the paper, and we got on it right away to provide the forum she wanted. And in turn, we provided the same forum for Kavanaugh. But what I've been dealing with since July the 10th, the downhill slope that Schumer's put us on, is really dealing with the demolition derby. And they just about destroyed a good person to be on the Supreme Court.
The reason I think there's been a lot of pushback across the country on what took place in the Senate Judiciary Committee and what's taking place in the media is because not all Americans, but most Americans have common sense. Most Americans are good people. Most Americans know a setup job when they see one. They saw a Senate Judiciary Committee that apparently hates men, that promotes lies and mob rule, that plays dirty tricks, that rejects fundamental due process rights, that declares a person guilty without justice, without evidence, without anything. And as I said yesterday, the American people saw a federal judge, a man with a stellar reputation, brought to tears in front of the media, in front of the nation, in front of the world. And they saw Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee who relished it. And they came to hate Kavanaugh the way they've come to hate the president, because he fought back, because he spoke up, because he challenged his accusers. The Democrats and the radical left-wing nutbase want you to believe that they represent women, that they stand for women's rights. No, they don't. They stand for left-wing women, but they don't stand for women's rights. Is there a single conservative woman that they don't trash? Of course not. You're either with their ideology or you're against it. This cycle, It's an attack on old white men. 1991, it was an attack on a black African American by the name of Clarence Thomas. In Barack Obama's re-election, they didn't care about women. They trashed Sarah Palin. They tried to destroy her. They filed ethics complaints against her. They attacked her intelligence. And on and on and on. They don't stand for women. They don't stand for minorities. They stand for power. They stand for progressive statism, control. And they turn citizen against citizen. That's what they do. Whether it's man against woman, whether it's straight against gay, whether it's rich against poor, black against white, so forth and so on. That's who they are. That's what they do. That's how the Democrat Party exists. That's how it was created. They stand for women. Let me tell you a little secret. Dr. Ford doesn't stand for all women. Her lawyer doesn't stand for all women. The others making accusations against Kavanaugh don't stand for all women. They don't stand for the women I know. Who stands for Mrs. Kavanaugh? Who stands for the two Kavanaugh daughters? Not the Democrats. They could care less. Who could stand for Mrs. Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh's mother? Not the Democrats. If you do not embrace their radical left agenda, they seek to destroy you, whether you're black, whether you're white, whether you're a woman, whether you're a male, whether you're gay or whether you're straight. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's take some calls. JT, Fairfax, Virginia, the great WMAL. Go.
Hey, Mark. I'm really thrilled to be on the air with you. My name is JT Doolittle, and my father was a conservative Republican U.S. representative from Northern California for 18 years.
I remember his name.
Yep. The corrupt media, the Democrats under Nancy Pelosi, as well as the corrupt leadership of the Justice Department, worked very hard to ruin my father and our family. They had to fight hard for 8 years and spend over $1 million in legal fees.
Remind me what happened.
Well, they were. My dad was in the Republican leadership, and they were friendly with Jack Abramoff, and just by guilt by association, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats tried to take my dad and my family down. But fortunately, after 8 years, putting them severely financially in debt, my parents were able to weather the storm and come out victorious.
Were there charges brought against them?
Not a single indictment. There was 8 years of investigation. Put them $1 million. They had to spend $1 million just defending themselves. My dad. Wow!
Can you imagine folks being investigated for 8 years?
8 years. The FBI still hasn't returned some of the personal effects they took from my family. So this whole Kavanaugh situation very much hits home to me because I believe they've tried to do the same thing to this good man as they attempted to do to my father. The good news is my dad weathered the storm, even though my parents were ruined financially. They didn't fold under the pressure to admit to something they didn't do, and thankfully neither is Kavanaugh. The real reason I'm calling those, because I never cared one bit about politics. I certainly never considered myself a conservative, but the aftermath of the 2016 election changed everything for me. Believe it or not, I was planning on voting for Hillary. I know that sounds crazy, but I was basing that decision purely on how I believed she presented herself on TV during the 3 televised debates. I thought that she represented herself more presidentially, but as stupid as that sounds, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who did the same thing. Democrats are very good at looking polished on television. They have a great outer shell with no substance underneath. But it was after the election when I started to realize how crooked and one-sided the media was, and it was this that started the wheels turning in my head. Then seeing all the venomous attacks by liberals on social media towards myself and others for daring to have a different opinion, that's what really energized me to get into the fight. I'm now a conservative Republican through and through, and I will absolutely be voting Republican in the upcoming elections. I've got to imagine there's other people more like me out there, people who didn't care much about politics before the election, people who are starting to have their eyes open to what is happening and are also ready to get into the fight. At this point, I really believe this is a fight versus good versus evil. You know, Republicans who stand for freedom and the Constitution versus Democrats who represent hate and are working hard to take away our individual God-given liberties.
All right, my friend. Well, I think you're exactly right, and my best to your family. I'm sorry you had to go through that. You take care of yourself. MJ, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Sirius Satellite. Go right ahead, please.
Hi, Mr. Levin. How are you doing this evening?
Great, thank you.
I just want to let you know, first and foremost, my son, who's just turned 14, just finished reading Liberty and Tyranny, and loved it. And he is working on, is it Emeritopia? Oh, yes,
That's
right?
a tough book, Emeritopia. I appreciate it.
No, he's great. We did cut in between, and he was reading the Charles Krauthammer book and writing a report on it.
Good.
Yeah, but listen, I just first wanted to love your show on Sundays also. It's great. And just wanted to say thanks for everything you do. I have a bad heart, but you keep it pumping, so thank you.
Oh, my goodness. Well, thank you.
And so looking forward to this book coming out. My husband's a cop, so I can't wait to this book, what your father did. That's great. I wanted to ask you a question. You were just talking about people, with the left loving women and supporting women and all that, just good stuff. And I don't think Dr. Ford's lawyers really care about her or care about women, because I just kind of thought with I'm a former Marine, so I just kind of thought with General Flynn lying to the FBI, maybe, or didn't lie to the FBI, not sure. Kind of thought he was maybe getting in trouble going to jail, and I thought with Martha Stewart, maybe not insider trading, but going to jail for it, maybe lying to the FBI. If the left cares about her, including the Democrats and all these people, I mean, it says right here, Christine Ford's attorneys say they haven't heard from an FBI Kavanaugh investigation. Why would they want the FBI to ask her one question? If the FBI asks one question, just something like, hey, do you fly on airplanes? She's done. She's going to jail.
But no. But here's the thing.
If she lies to the FBI, right?
No, I agree with you, but they're not doing a criminal investigation.
What?
This is what Judge Napolitano doesn't understand, or many other people. All they're doing, this is not a criminal investigation where people, can plead the fifth and that sort of thing. What it is they're trying to ask people about the various allegations that were made, and that's it.
Right, but I'm saying I thought under Title 18.
Well, Title 18 is a big title. You mean Section 1001, false statements?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible, but again, they're not doing a criminal investigation. They're doing a background investigation, and people have different opinions and so forth. If they're doing a criminal investigation, they would have to be issuing letters. They would have to go through a completely different formalized process than they're going through now. If they want to do search, they have to get warrants with probable cause. It's none of that.
I totally understand, but if that's what they want, because obviously they want to drag this out past the midterms, they don't care about the client is what I'm saying. Because they want two things, of course we all know, to drag it out. But they don't care about the victim is what I was getting at. We know what they want, but they don't want this. They don't want Kavanaugh, which I'm so happy for him. But I'm so happy for what's going on. But, I mean, I am just disgusted that we know they don't want Kavanaugh. But for them to say they want justice for this victim, because at the end, if they drag this out...
No, the way is, if you want justice for the victim, you go into the Montgomery County Police Department and you make out a complaint and see where that goes. And they won't do it. All right, MJ, I do get your point, and I hope you feel well. Given your weak heart. I know the feeling. I've got one myself. But you hang in there. Let us go to Steve, Los Angeles, California. 870 The Answer. KRLA. Go right ahead.
Mark, first of all, thank you for all that you do, you and your partner in crime, Sean Hannity. I don't know what we would do without you.
Thank you.
You kind of touched on what I was going to bring up, and maybe I need a little more understanding. Common sense would dictate that the FBI does not need to talk to the judge or Dr. Ford. But why not for the sake of appearance and to
because it's not about appearances. They had a limited amount of time. Listen, appearance is not going to assuage the left. It's just not. And so we on the right, we have to start to understand this, or we constitutionalists. It's not about pacifying the media, pacifying the Democrats. Don't you understand they want to destroy what we believe in?
Yes.
And so we could do 25 FBI investigations. Unless there's one where they can hang their hat on, it's not going to matter.
Probably not.
These are the same people who said the man is guilty. It's a job interview, and that the due process doesn't apply because it's a job interview. Does anybody really think that if it looks better, if the FBI interviewed the two others, that somehow you'll bring over Chuck Schumer? Chuck Schumer's a bomb thrower. That's what we're up against. We're up against truly diabolical individuals. You're not going to be able to appease them under any circumstances. I'll be right back. Let's go to Jacques, Monsey, Indiana, XM Satellite. Go right ahead, please.
How you doing, Mark? Great listening to you. I love listening to you. I just have a quick comment and one question because I don't really know the answer. My comment is I think all they really was trying to do was plant the seed of doubt in people's mind. I think that's how they wanted to try and come about this. And, you know, sometimes that's all you need to do. But my question is, can they pull any last-minute shenanigans at the last second and go to, like, let's say the Ninth Circuit Court and try to get this stopped through the legal process? I mean, through the judicial process? No,
the courts can't get involved in a confirmation process. This is wholly within the realm of the United States Senate. Even the House can't get involved in it. To his credit, Mitch McConnell does know how to work the Senate floor. He does know what the procedures are. I believe they're planning on a Saturday vote. Because this senator from Montana has his daughter's wedding, maybe it'll be a Sunday vote. But I'll tell you, we got to keep an eye on the three stooges of the Republican Party, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Jeff Flake. Because even now that they got the FBI report that they wanted, even though two of them said it was fulsome, even now they're playing games. And so these are very, very unprincipled individuals in those three. And what they're really weighing here, ladies and gentlemen, is their own political careers and futures and how the lib media will treat them, because that is the bottom line. They're driven by how the lib media treat them, Jacques.
You have to know that if they don't, their careers are pretty much over, because I don't think the Republican base would follow them. And if Jeff Flake really is thinking about running for president, does he really think he can win without any Republican support? I just don't think. I think they're not making a decision now because I just don't think they want to be harassed.
I think Flake views himself as a spoiler. That's all. He's really a nobody who's done nothing. He really has done nothing. He's getting this enormous amount of attention. The ego's completely out of control. All right, my friend, I appreciate your call. Let's go to Scott, Omaha, Nebraska, the great KOIL. Go.
Hey, Mark, I want to thank you for this great show you have. I want to tell you that you are blessed with great intellect, and it's a great pleasure to be able to listen to you every day. I want to make a quick comment, and that is the carnage that these Democrats leave behind. I want to point thing that should have alerted us to who these people really are. And it was when Donald Trump was, if you recall, was told that, hey, this guy's got Alzheimer's or this guy's got dementia. I remember that whole conversation that took about 2 weeks of our time. And none of these guys ever came out and apologized. And they had expert after expert on TV telling us, hey, look at these facial expressions of the president. Hey, look at the way he slurs his words. Look at the way he carries himself. This guy's got problems, right? And here we are 2 years later. I'm going to tell you that this guy is a rock star and a genius and is burying these guys, which is very, very fun to watch. But anyhow, and then he carries forth that doctor that that was the one that did all this investigation on his health, because they forced Trump to go through all the medical hoops. And from that, then this guy gets left in carnage as well, because he came out and said that Trump didn't have Alzheimer's, that he was very sound and very healthy.
Right.
And what a bunch of it's maddening as you are conveying as well. But anyhow, that's a bunch of people that we're working with, and nobody ever came out and apologized for saying that Trump was dementia or has Alzheimer's, and that's a crazy conviction right there.
And they're never going to apologize for it, because
no, they never will.
This is a hit-and-run bunch. A hit-and-run bunch. Now they got these tax returns from 2001, his father's taxes. Somehow they stole those, or somebody stole them, and the ACLU's not around to help. The ACLU is thrown in with the tyrants. All right, my friend, thank you for your call. Let us continue. Let's see here. Let us go to Ken, Long Beach, California, 870 The Answer. Go.
Yes, Mark. My question is, are there any Senate precedents or any rules of the Senate that would allow Dianne Feinstein to be declared to recuse herself from any vote because of the alleged involvement with...
No, they would have to have a financial interest, or a family member have a financial interest. Something like this, leaking and letters and so forth. No, first of all, you'd have to prove it. So far, they haven't proven it, although we all know she or somebody associated with her did it, but that's not good enough. Secondly, I assume you would need a majority of the Senate. You're not going to get the Three Stooges. So it would be a sideshow.
And my next question would be, if you could give us a sort of a thumbnail sketch of what would happen with a four-man Supreme Court. I mean, as far as voting.
Four-man.
Well,
there's 8 of them on there.
Four-person. Sorry.
Well, if they vote 4-4, that means the holding in the circuit court below stands.
Okay. And there's no such thing as a recess appointment for Supreme Court.
Yeah, there could be.
That would be...
You could have a recess appointment for a court. Wouldn't last very long, which is why they don't do it. All you do is you get certain senators, including Republican senators, angry. But you could do it, but the goal here is a lifetime appointment, not an appointment for a year or two.
Is that just, hopefully something that would be a thorn in their side? We need to stop acting like losers and be on the defense here. We need to ram this through. Don't worry about recess appointments and recusals and all the rest. These people need to be crushed. And so if you really want to do something, you call one of the Three Stooges. You be polite to them and civil to them, and I don't have to be on the air, but you should, and tell them that this is very, very important to you, and you're going to be watching what they do. And in the case of Murkowski and Collins, that you take this very, very seriously. All right, my friend, thanks for your call. Frank, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the great WPHT, go.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. Mark, for me, I'm very concerned that I don't think folks understand the impact that this Kavanaugh hearing is having on due process in this country. And folks we should be outraged, because if due process is gone, then the country's gone. You have somebody who accused Judge Kavanaugh of a crime. And rather than the burden of proof being on the accuser, which is due process, the burden of proof is on the accused. And not only that, but now the accuser gets to determine what is justified proof. He has a calendar. Well, that's not good enough. All the witnesses say that he didn't do it, or he wasn't there. That's not good enough. We need an FBI investigation. That's not good enough. And then he's not even allowed to point to the inconsistencies of the accuser, Ford, and all the lies that, no, you're not allowed to talk to her. She's the victim. Mark, if I can just go around accusing people, Mark, you hate women. Well, I have a daughter. Yeah, but that's not good enough. Well, but I work with, yeah, but that's not. And now it's up to you to prove to me that you don't. Due process is done. And I don't know Kavanaugh. I want Kavanaugh to be voted, but this is so much bigger than Justice Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. This is the country, and I don't feel that folks really understand the impact of this.
I think a lot do. I really do. Maybe not enough, but I think there's a rising tide here, and you put it very, very beautifully, Frank. Very well put. Thank you for your call. John, Fullerton, California, 870 The Answer. Go right ahead.
Hey, Mark, at first I've got to tell you that my wife and I love your television show. It's the best thing on TV.
Thank you. Well, Sunday it's back at 10 p.m. the way it should be Eastern, and where you are, it's 7 p.m.
And we actually missed you last Sunday because of the time change, although I've got it set up to tape on Saturday, so I didn't miss you. Listen, Mark, I just want to suggest one thing about Senators Murkowski and Collins and Flake. I have the feeling that they are going to vote for Kavanaugh, and they've already made up their minds. But by not tipping their hand at this point, the Republicans are putting maximum pressure on those Democrats running for the Senate in states that Trump won.
This makes a ton of sense, assuming Collins and Flake and Murkowski are playing ball. You think they're playing ball?
I think that they are. Once they looked at the report, and Flake and Collins, I think, are on record saying this is a definitive report. This is a good in-depth investigation. I'm on board. I think that they're not backing away from that now. They're merely letting Manchin and the rest of these Democrats who would like to have it both ways, they're letting them sit on the hot plate.
It must just be Manchin, because Heitkamp already announced from North Dakota that she's voting against him, and so did the guy Donnelly in Indiana. So Manchin's the last one left.
They are voting, or she at least is voting contrary to the will of her own constituency.
All right, my friend. That's fascinating. I hope you're right. I appreciate it. Mike, East Brunswick, New Jersey, the great WABC. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Mark, thanks for taking my call. I'd like to talk for a minute about my new least favorite senator, Amy Klobuchar, I believe her name is.
Right.
I watched the most amazing thing. She begins by bragging about her 8 years as a county prosecutor and about how she knows about these things, and then goes on to say that under our federal rules of evidence, that Ford must be considered credible because of what she said to her therapist. Yeah, it's absurd. She's probably talking about Rule 803, which just makes an exception to the hearsay rule, which only means that it's reliable that she said it, not reliable that it's true. Mm-hmm. But this person claiming this expertise would get in front of the American public and make such a crazy statement.
You're so right.
Not have any media call her out on it.
And by the way, why doesn't she release those therapist notes? We'd all like to look at them now that she waived any sort of privilege.
Yeah. Well, that's the next thing. It's pretty remarkable. If somebody did try to invoke the hearsay rule, that's the first thing you do. You want them in, you put the whole thing in. But it's really crazy. That's the level of competence that some of these Democratic senators show.
You're a lawyer, I take it.
Well, yeah, but I don't do a hell of a lot of trial work, but even I know that.
Right.
It doesn't make her credible. It just means that it's reliable. She said it. And how somebody in that position can not know the difference is just remarkable.
All right, Mike. Good call. I appreciate it. John, Fayetteville, Arkansas, the great KFAY. Go.
What's up, my brother?
What up?
Come on down to Fayetteville, Arkansas. We take a picture in front of the U of A with the great J. William Fulbright. You know the guy. You know the guy.
They haven't torn down that statue yet?
No. You know the guy that didn't want black people to vote. You know the Democrats that Bill Clinton loves. You know
Clinton's buddy. Oh yeah, Clinton's mentor.
Listen, Mark. You know I'm gonna say something real quick and get off because I know you got valuable time here. Listen, these senators that say, "Oh, it's a lifetime position." Look, you've been on the Senate for 50 years, dude. We're tired of hearing you too. Here's the thing, Mark. Here's the thing about this.
You're talking about Leahy and his lifetime position.
Yeah, exactly. Listen here, America. We're always calling and saying, Mark, what can we do? I tell you what we do, Mark. In November we vote because your small town in middle America, they're coming after you because those guys that vote on the left coast and the east coast, they want your America to be like they are in their state. And the founders were such geniuses, Mark. You say it all the time with the Electoral College because if it wasn't for that, those people would be running our country. They tried to this week.
And let me tell you something, my brother. They're coming after that Electoral College. They've made it quite obvious that they want to destroy that, too.
I'm saying this to small town America, Fayetteville, Arkansas, little towns in Iowa. If you vote for that local guy that sells you by lying and shamming and on a sham that he is not a communist socialist, because if he has a D by, or she has a D by their name, that's what they stand for, and that's what you have to remember. They'll sell it to you locally, and they'll march off to Washington. You know what I'm talking about, Mark, my brother.
Oh, yeah.
Little town America's got to wake up. Your little vote in a small town in Des Moines, Iowa, wherever you live, you have to get out and go against these people because they do want radical communist socialists. I live in a very liberal part of Arkansas, very liberal, and I have to keep my mouth shut.
All right, John. Great call. We really appreciate it. We'll be right back.